consultations on the Inflation Reduction Act, a key piece of legislation here in the Biden administration.
Yeah, just make me host, and then I can make Magda when she gets her co-host.
Open between Biden and Xi following really intricate level of meetings between cabinet level officials here at the White House. With
I can just do live on Facebook and all that other.
Secretaries Yellen and
live on Facebook. Okay.
Here in National City, the City Council is getting ready to look at a possible homeless encampment ban tonight. Earlier today, I talked to locals about homelessness in the area and if they think an encampment ordinance will actually help. Here's what they had to say. Do you think it's kind of a problem in the area?
I think so. Many times we walk, many people walk.
Okay.
And we avoid to walk where they are. It's like invade his privacy. I feel like homelessness has gotten a bit more visible. I do feel that at times at night we do see more of a growing community of them around here.
National City tonight is considering an encampment ordinance that would basically keep tents off of the sidewalks in public areas. What's your thought on that?
I think about the youth in the community. I do see.
Another car is here. We can start recording. Okay.
Are we ready?
We are.
Okay. The Historic Resources Board is in session right now. Let me see where we're at first. Let's stand for a pledge of allegiance, please. Welcome to everybody. It's 6:04 right now. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. And a roll call. And there's nobody here to give us roll call.
Yes.
She's online.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Liz.
Can you
hi
hear
there.
me? Hi,
Yes.
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, Board Member Aranda,
Here.
Board Member Medeiros,
Here.
Board Member Pisano,
Here.
and Chair DeBreeze, absent.
Okay, thank you very much, City Clerk. And now we go to general public comments. Or if there's any general public comments, you can come here and speak on any subject that's not on the agenda. We'd appreciate anybody that's out there, even on Zoom, we'll find out. So is there anybody? Come forward, please. Thank you.
So there's no one in the council chambers wishing to speak at this time, and there are no hands raised in the Zoom attendance.
Okay, thank you. And let's go to proclamation. That's what's next. And National Preservation Month, May of 2024. We have this annually, and it's Preservation Month, which is every May coming this year. So we have two private property or owners and also a business owner that we recognize and give award to. So that being said, staff, do you have anything to say on it?
No, but we do have Cara here. Did you want to? Oh, Avanda wants to speak? Okay, great. Okay, yeah, well, we'll let the Historical Society represented by Avanda Gibar to present tonight.
Welcome, Ariana Ortiz. Is this?
Avanda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, Vanda. This is welcome aboard. If you have anything to say as far as the awards, recognition awards for preservation awards for the month of May.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. As David said, since 2012, the Historic Resources Board has recognized National Preservation Month by awarding property owners who've maintained their properties following the Secretary of the Interior standards to the best that they can. We started in 2012 with private buildings, and I'm sorry, public buildings. And then in 2016, we decided to do a public and a private building. So this year, we decided, the Historical Society Board decided to nominate the Plaza Market or Tucaleto Hall because it underwent some extensive painting and restoration last year. It was kind of ongoing. And it's right on 3rd Street. It's visible. It's a very historic property built in 1840. And they even discovered a sign in the upper right corner of the facade that they preserved for the public. It's a nice little hint to the past. And the other building that we are nominating is the Lovett House. It's an 1852 wood frame house on 800 2nd Street. And I guess in the 80s, the property owners, who are still the property owners, renovated and really maintained most of the character defining features. So that's the kind of thing that Historical Society looks for, not just a painting job or putting in aluminum siding windows, but have they maintained the historic integrity of the building? And that's what we want to maintain in San Juan Bautista. So for your consideration, we're offering these 2 properties and hope that you'll approve them. And then in May, they will be recognized at the city council meeting, hopefully with a lovely framed photograph that David typically presents every year with a little history of the project. So there you have it. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
So, okay, thank you very much, Vonda. Yes, so the private residence is going to be on 2nd Street.
Yes.
And right, and the business is going to be the Plaza Market, I should say. Looking forward to helping anybody and everybody with that. And I am just thinking, what are we going to do from here? I understand this is a proclamation. Do we need to pass it through city council and get that approved through them? Or I'm thinking that's what we need to move this forward. And if they want me to help, it has to come from them to me so that I can officially help out with that in the best way I can, as assisting with the awards and what have you. I'd be happy to do that. Other than that, are there any questions from the public on this matter? I'll bring it back to the Historical Resource Board members. Do you have anything to say on this? Ida?
I do have a question. Vonda, I can address to Vonda, right? Okay. So, on 2nd Street, are there any photos about the character defining features that's been well maintained? And then the other is, if you can support how it attracts visitors to the city, being that it is on 2nd Street and not on Main Street where the downtown is. So, if you can just address those 2 items.
Okay. If I may speak, Ida, thank you for your question. There are photos. There should be photos in your binder. I took photos of both the buildings. Looking at the Lovett House.
I see the exterior.
Yeah, and that's all we're looking at because as a private building, the CEQA has different guidelines for restoration for public buildings and private buildings. So I happen to have been in the building and it looks, very much like it might have looked then. It looks fabulous. It's a great property. I didn't print out the pictures, but in terms of the historic character defining features, they still have the wood sash windows. They have the pillars, wood posts in the front. They have the same roof line. They haven't changed the profile of the house, and that's what we look for. When renovations come through, are they following the Secretary of the Interior standards as best they can? Feasibility is a word that we like to use because we know some things are going to be exorbitantly expensive, but in our estimation, that building certainly deserves an award. And regarding its placement on Second Street, it is on the historic walking trail. So San Juan's a very small town, and Third Street is not the only historic part of the town. We have the Morentis House, which is on the National Register of Historic Places. That's on Monterey Street. The Wilcox House is also on the National Register of Historic Places, and that's on the Alameda across the highway. So we're not just limiting ourselves to Third Street. People from the north, coming from the north, many of them will drive on Second to get to the Mission. So I just think that its placement on the historic walking trail again warrants its recognition as a well-preserved building. But thank you for your questions.
So when it is recognized, if it is approved, then do these buildings receive some kind, not just a certificate, but some kind of landmark so that being part of the walking trail, historic walking trail, that it is identified?
I'm having a hard time hearing you, but I think you're asking about what happens beyond the recognition we give. Those buildings that are on the historic walking trail do have a marking on their buildings, either on the building or on a fence nearby, whatever they have chosen. And I'm trying to remember if the Lovett House has one or not. I'll have to look into it. And then every year, David, I don't know if you're a professional photographer, but that certainly is his passion. He always takes a beautiful photograph, beautifully frames it on his own time and own treasure, and then presents it at City Council when it's awarded to the applicants. And in April, at the April City Council meeting, the proclamation will be made by City Council. And then at the May City Council meeting, the property owners will receive their awards. Thank you for the question.
I apologize. I guess I wasn't speaking into the microphone, so some people didn't hear my question, but thank you for the response.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Okay, thank you. Board member Aranda, do you have anything to say at this time?
Yeah, I just would like to say, I think the two properties that you guys selected is perfect. I'm really happy to see the Plaza Market on Third Street being not renovated, but they got a fresh coat of paint. It looks like it's being taken care of. It looks really lovely when I'm running down Third. Usually every day I always look at that building and admire it just because it looks really good. And I hope that would encourage other building owners in town to actually do the same and give their buildings a little TLC time to time. But lovely properties and great work. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's anybody else? Yes, we do have a guest speaker here, I guess. Come on, Karabank.
Okay, Cara Vonk, San Juan Bautista. And I just want to clarify in response to Ida's question. The award is simply honorary. It doesn't give the owner any special status or, money, or it doesn't even give them a plaque, really. Because we did work on a walking tour with plaques, but the plaques are quite expensive. So, we have to do fundraising, and we do have more buildings we'd like to put on the walking tour. And then also in response to your early question, in terms of the interior of the buildings, under the Secretary of Interior standards for private property, you can do anything you want on the inside. You can gut the entire inside and put in, mid-century stuff. But it would be different for a property that's historically been open to the public. So, that could be businesses, or a lot of times it's banks, especially the more traditional banks. They're really beautiful. They do have to go through the review process. So that's it. And thank you, Vanda, for being online too. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Cara, for your input and what have you. Looking forward this year, as far as I'm concerned, helping out in any way that I can. As far as the recognition awards go, be happy to do that as well. And so I guess I'm gonna turn this, thank you, Vonda, for helping us out. This is, giving us the information that we need. Appreciate that very much. And I extend my, assistance to you. Anything that I can do from here on out, I'd be happy to help you with. That being said, is there any other questions, concerns? Okay, so I'm asking staff to bring this forward and put it on the agenda for city council that we're going forward with these two selections. And to come back and get the wheels moving on this as far as that goes. Again, thank you all for setting this up and making it happen. Appreciate it very much. That being said, next item on the agenda, and that would be the consent items. If on
sorry,
A, which is the approved affidavit of what?
I think we're gonna be tabling our minutes. Is that correct, Liz?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Chair.
So that's not gonna be part of the motion for today. We're gonna table the minutes that are listed here on item B. And that's the approve the special meeting minutes for March 14th. That's gonna be tabled. And as far as the approve the affidavit, the posting agenda, do we have a motion on either one of those?
I move to approve the affidavit of posting agenda. Oh. I move to approve the.
I have to agree.
I move to approve the affidavit of posting agenda.
I second that motion.
Motion approved. Do we have a roll call on this, or do we just say all in favor, say aye?
Let me do the roll call if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you, Liz.
Thank you. Board Member Aranda,
Yes.
Board Member Pisano,
Yes.
and Chair Medeiros.
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you very much. And next item is action item number 5, which is review the city's certified local government annual report for 2021 and to 2022, and consider input by the San Juan Bautista Historical Society before recommending approval to the Planning Commission. Staff, do you have word on this, please? Thank you.
Yes. This is a follow-up matter. We presented both the 21-22 and the annual report for 22-23 at our March meeting. And unfortunately, the agenda did not include this report. So we jumped through all these hoops last month, and we're asking you to jump through them just one more time so we can get this report finished. And with 21-22 on file, we'll be again eligible for the state historic preservation grants that we want to use to help update our contextual statements and working with historian Meg Clovis. So that's why this is important, and we're following up after last month's meeting and taking care of this little bit of business as we move forward. There were 2 properties considered in 21-22, and that's 205 the Alameda and 903 3rd Street. And that's all we have.
Okay, thank you. As far as that goes, is an action item, are we gonna make any kind of decision on this as far as approvals and what have you?
Yes.
Or do we want to discuss it further? So let me extend it out to the public. If anybody has any comments on this, please, you may come forward. Do we have anybody?
I see no hands raised on Zoom, and I don't see anyone in the audience here at City Hall.
Okay, thank you for that. And what about the board members? Do we have anything to say, any concerns, questions at this time?
No comments on my end.
No comments on my end.
Okay, so it's an action item. What do we need to do with this?
I'll just refer this to the Planning Commission for approval.
Okay, so we're going to send that to the planning committee for approval. Okay. That, do we need to make a motion on that of some sort
Yes.
and approval? Okay. Will somebody please make a motion that we will recommend to the planning commission? Yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to review the city certified local government annual report and move it over to the Planning Commission.
I second that motion.
Thank you very much. We have a roll call on that.
Board Member Aranda,
Yes.
Board Member Pisano,
Yes.
and Chair Maderos.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much for that. And now we go into the comment section. Do we have any comments from the Historic Resources Board members?
No comment.
Rhonda, Board Member Rhonda? Yeah.
None. Thank you.
None? Okay, I don't have any comments at this time. So City Manager.
None at this time, thank you.
Okay, that being said, thank you very much. Make a motion to adjourn.
You want to do it?
Sure. I make a motion to adjourn the Historic Resources Board meeting.
So,
Thank you very much for that. Can we have a roll call on that?
Board Member Aranda,
yes.
Board Member Pisano,
Yes.
and Chair Maderos.
Yes. That being said, this meeting is now adjourned. The time is 6:23. Thank you all for attending.
All right. I've got to make sure our cameraman knows we have 2 meetings. All right, no worries. Oh, he just left. He's like, okay, you're. He's like, I'm out. I'm sorry. Been doing this too long.
So, Carl, I think we're all kind of, I just thought it would be really. Where, what? I said, I just thought it would be really, you let the house looks like inside.
Oh,
Yeah. When stocking it out, that has been maintained and so on.
Yeah.
I love to see wood. I love to see the architecture.
Yeah.
So exterior.
But that's all the
That's all I
Secretary of the
know.
Interior cares about.
Yeah.
Like windows, doors, finish, anything,
Yeah.
the porch. I mean, it's actually my favorite building in town.
I know, it's a
I
very
just love it.
It's wondering,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could have been gutted on one side, could be really boring.
Yeah. Pretty cool, but so in the 1980s, I thought it was sold in 1998 though.
I don't know the history. I've been here since 2000.
No.
I was in high school. It's a buddy of mine who used to live around. Following the sun. When the kids, the guys and bus everything.
Yeah.
And that brings the college together and they have a bring the raise. And I say, like that, I fuck with this. So anyway, yeah, so he went his way and he came back from Vietnam, thank goodness, even as a boomerang out of the whole people. Got through all that, came back and visited all of the very single there. And I was really thing that they once lived in the house on Second Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, start up. You guys ready?
Liz, I think we're ready to go rock and roll. I'm not sure.
We're ready when you are.
All right, sweet. Let's do it. All right, so it's now 6:27 and I would like to call the planning commission meeting of Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024 to order. Commissioner Maderos, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with
liberty, and justice for all. Thank you. Right. Clerk, can I please get a roll call?
Commissioner DeBreeze, Commissioner Maderos,
Yes, here.
Commissioner Pisano,
Present.
and Chair Aranda.
Here. All right, this is the time for general public comment on items that are not on the agenda that are under the city subject's jurisdiction matter. The planning commission will not be engaging if you have any, planning commission will not be engaging if you have any anything that requires follow-up. Staff will get back to you. Public comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The chair may further limit the time for public comments depending on the agenda schedule. If you are attending in person and wish to make a public comment, please fill out a speaker card and state your name for the record. So now I would like to open up the public, the floor for public comment. City manager, is there anyone?
No, there's no one on Zoom with their hand raised. And there is no one in the audience, City.
Got it. And then city clerk, anyone on Zoom?
No hands raised, Chair.
Got it. All right, well, I will be closing that up. Next item on the agenda is consent. There's 3 items on the consent agenda. Would any commissioner like to pull this item for a separate vote or separate discussion?
No.
No.
Any member of the public like to pull an item?
There are no hands raised. And no one in the audience.
Sweet. All right, so is there a motion to approve the affidavit posting agenda and special meetings and the regular meetings, January 23rd and February 6th?
I move to approve all 3 items, A, B, and C, affidavit and the special meetings on January 23rd and the regular meeting February 6th.
I second it.
All right, with a motion from Commissioner Pisano and a second from Commissioner Maderos. Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Maderos,
Yes.
Commissioner Pisano,
Yes.
and Chair Aranda.
Yes. Moving on to the next agenda item, certified local government CLG annual report. And it is to approve a resolution accepting the recommendation from the Historic Resource Board and approving the certified local government CLG annual reports from 2021 through 2022. Staff, do we have a report?
Thank you, Chair. This report comes back for a second time tonight because it was included in the agenda packet with its accompanying report for 2023, 2022, 23. And so this is just a staff's report for the state for the activity on a few properties in town back in 2021, 2022. Needs to be submitted to the State Historic Preservation Office so the city can again become eligible for state historic grants. So I'll be happy to answer any questions on the report if you have any.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
None at this time.
I have none at this time.
And now I'd like to open up to public comment. Is there anyone in chambers or over Zoom?
No hands raised in Zoom, Chair.
No members of the public here.
Thank you. And I guess I will accept a motion.
Yeah, I'll approve a resolution accepting the recommendation from the Historic Resources Board and approving a certified local government annual report for 2021 to 2022.
I second the motion.
With a motion from Commissioner Maderos and a second from Commissioner Pisano, clerk, can I have a roll call?
Commissioner Maderos,
Yes.
Commissioner Pisano,
Yes.
and Chair Aranda.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. And then now moving on to the next agenda item discussion, discussing the draft zoning ordinance amending chapter 1104, temporary use of land and adding chapter 1119 to address food trucks. Staff, do we have a report?
Yes, and we have Adriana Ortiz and Magda Gonzalez here, as well as our city attorney, John Giffen, to discuss these 2 proposed ordinances. The first ordinance, 11-04, are revisions to the existing code. When it was reviewed by our planning staff back in October, November of last year, there were some big points that needed to be straightened out. There are restrictions to having retail sales outdoors under certain circumstances, and some other more restrictive, I'll say, regulations that perhaps the city wants to take another look at. So that comes back to you revised, and it was all generated by a food truck located at a coffee shop, where the food truck wasn't allowed in the use permit to be on the property. And so we've been issuing temporary use of land permits at 6-month increments so that these other uses can occur. So you often now see under the Tulip, we have a fellow selling pizza on a private property out of a food truck. We have earrings and jewelry and other things being sold on a pop-up basis, on a temporary pop-up basis. There are 2 properties in town where food trucks are part of the use permit, and that's here on 3rd Street. So those are the only 2 exceptions to the rule. So the effort in 11-04 is to straighten out the ordinance more consistent with our contemporary thinking downtown. And then the second ordinance was drafted by Adriana, and she's got a few slides, and I'll let her go through that for you and give you an introduction to an ordinance that specifically addresses the health and safety of food trucks in our town. Okay, Adriana and Magda, would you like to? Maybe Liz, can you pull up the slides? There you go, they're up. Great.
Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes, thank you and
Okay.
welcome.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Planning Commissioners. Okay, so we're gonna go over really quickly the 2 sections that he was discussing. So it's basically a section out of 1104, chapter 1104, and then the new section, which will be 1119 to address the food trucks. So as mentioned, there are portions of this that we'd like to look at. And so this was originally drafted prior to November. There was a meeting and notes taken during the meeting, but we would like to further look into these areas, and these are organized based on the zoning districts. So it's a section out of 1104 that addresses outdoor uses. So we would like to address like a mixed use district, development standards, incentive bonuses, pedestrian amenity improvements, pedestrian linkages, and public plazas. And then looking at the mixed use and commercial districts, we'd like to look at the allowed outdoor uses, product displays, sales, dining, personal services, other pedestrian oriented uses and improvements. And then outdoor uses requiring conditional use permit. So operations 2 days or more a week would require a conditional use permit. 2 or more vendors operating from the same site at one time. Amplified music, project site. So a project site in a historic designation. Projects with potential negativity impacts neighboring properties due to noise, odor, traffic, circulation, etc. And then in industrial districts, we would like to look at outdoor uses shall require approval of a conditional use permit or site plan and development review permit. So another thing we look at are performance standards, which are basically put in place to reduce negative impacts within the community. So we're looking at the like noise ordinances, or we're looking at like, prohibiting dangerous or, elements. Definitely don't want anything radioactive, so these are the kind of things that are addressed in this section. The next step, sorry. So staff is going to meet with the Development Review Committee. The DRC is typically made up of your engineering department, public works, building, fire, sheriff, code enforcement, and in this case, ecology. And they're bringing in their area of expertise and addressing anything that may not have been looked at in the current draft code. So staff will gather these suggestions and these comments from the DRC, and then we'll present them, we'll add them in with the workshop to the community. So that's the next step. So the next step would be the workshop, which would be scheduled for a future date. We present the draft ordinance, taking into consideration any of the comments that we receive either today or with the DRC, and then request community input. The next step after that would be updating the draft ordinance, scheduling a planning commission date, And then revise the draft if you guys are asking us to make any revisions, and then schedule the city council meeting. So then we're going into the next section. So the second item that we were going to discuss, which is section 1119. This is a brand new section, and you can see it outlined there, and it's been redlined by the attorneys. So there's other items that we'll probably revise before we bring it to the workshop. This also will be brought to the DRC. We'll be looking at the intent, definitions, applicability findings, requirements, licenses and process, operational standards, exceptions, approval and permit issuance, permit suspension or revocation, permit expiration, and permit renewal. The DRC is the only one that's added to this DRC is finance, because there's a new fee involved in this permit. So we included finance. But it's the same idea. Our next meeting is going to be with the DRC. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we meet with the DRC and are able to gather all of that information from them and compile it for the workshop. Same thing here you guys can do the same day for the workshop, or we could do 2 separate workshops. It's probably easier just to combine the 2. But we'll need a future date. We'll bring the draft ordinance, which you have a copy of that. It should be revised again before it's brought forward. And then we'll be requesting community input. Again, the next steps are the draft ordinance, planning commission date, revising it if needed, and scheduling the city council meeting. So now staff is requesting that the planning commission provide us with a date and location for the workshop for the public outreach component, which is the next step.
And we can do that now.
Yes.
I'm thinking I propose a workshop at the library. Can we do that?
Yes.
Let's do the library. I think it's more of an inviting environment and it's a little bigger. So I would like to do that. I'm curious to know, and I want to get I want to pick the brains of the other commissioners here, but whether this workshop should be done on a Saturday to really give the community a chance to actually attend, or if we want to keep this on a weekday. And perhaps like a 6 o'clock. I know a lot of our city folk here commute, and by the time they get here and get dinner, does that really give them time to come out?
I think that a weekend is going to be much better than a work day, especially if we're inviting the community. However, the time and which day of the weekend would be most important for consideration for them to be able to attend, because Saturday mornings are usually sports for families. And so maybe in the afternoon, but then not too late in the afternoon because it gets into their Saturday evenings. So, but I would vote for a Saturday, not a Sunday.
Okay. Commissioner Medeiros?
Yeah, I go along with the weekend too as well, and Saturday being the better day of the 2. But there's some good questions that just got brought up as far as attendance and what have you. So the date would be important as to how we can prepare ourselves for the workshop. And what would be important is to get all the right people to come to these meetings to make sure at the workshop that we have the input that we need to go forward with this. So that would be critical. And what would be the scheduled date? Would it be this month or next month or what have you? But the sooner the better. I don't know how prepared we are for this first workshop.
The other part of that is to make it a little bit more easier to attend would be probably to have not only the physical, but also via Zoom.
Yeah, I think we can arrange for Zoom at the library. Is that correct?
We've done it before, but with the help of a consultant, so I'd have to follow up.
Okay. So are you guys thinking you guys like this Saturday kind of idea then?
Saturday afternoon is.
I was
what
thinking
might
like
be.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe.
And how are we gonna prepare for this day? Is there, we need to reach out for one thing, and how are we gonna do that? And if I can help with that, let me know.
Yeah.
The other is, always refreshments, even if it's light refreshments may attract some people to attend. So we had some.
A
people,
pop-up.
It's a 1 o'clock. If
Food
it's a
truck.
1 o'clock. Yeah, there you go, food truck.
Yeah, so, yeah, staff, is that something we can facilitate, Saturday, one of the Saturdays in this month, 1 o'clock, Zoom?
Absolutely.
I'm looking at my own schedule. I am busy every Saturday until May 11th. Just a busy time of the month for me, but busy time of the year for me.
The next planning commission meeting is May 7th.
Do you want to just do one in May, then we can do this workshop sometime May, on a Saturday?
That would be better for me. May 11, is that okay?
The only concern I have is I forget what the dates are for the barbecue cook-off or the rib cook-off. We want to stay away
April.
from that.
I
Oh,
know
April?
rib cook-off is in April,
Okay.
but then you have to watch out for Mother's Day in May.
Ooh.
Yeah, actually, I'm supposed to be coaching up by Grace on the 11th. You guys decide, we'll work it out.
Yeah, so I don't know if we want to pick, yeah, somewhere in May. I should be pretty open there,
Don't have my calendar open,
Yeah.
hold on.
unless you guys want to do like a weekday, but. Up to you guys.
Adriana, is this something we need to do right away,
We could ask Liz to work on this as well.
or Liz?
Yeah, it's helpful if we have the dates set so that we can start preparing and
Right,
even
right.
maybe create a flyer, put something online.
Alright,
We're able to market it. But I think that having it later in May would give you more opportunity to invite more members of the community. So it gives you a little bit more time to get the word out and let us get a little more creative on how we're going to do some outreach.
The only date that I can see in May, if Don can't do it on the 11th, the next Saturday would be the 18th, because the 25th is Memorial Weekend.
The 18th works for me.
I think the 18th works for me too,
Yeah.
because you got May 4th, which is Cinco de Mayo weekend, no one's gonna
Right,
come,
right.
like
Right.
Mother's Day is the following, and then.
Right.
So let's
Good after
do
you.
May.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we proposing May 18th, Saturday,
At one.
1 o'clock at the library with light refreshments from possibly a food truck, Don?
I can commit to May 18th.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're
I can
gonna
invite all the food
you're gonna
trucks.
really sell it.
If
A
we
food
can-
truck and a pop-up stand.
Okay, May 18th?
May
Thank you.
18th,
Thank you
May
for
18th.
flexing for my.
And it's gonna be what time?
At 1 o'clock.
And the library is generally open during those hours, so, we'll just accommodate.
Okay. Is it, yeah, unless they're general.
Oh, they're only open until 2.
Okay.
On a Saturday, the library is only open until
Okay,
2.
well, yeah, so the last, where do you think inconveniencing people for the
So-
last hour?
Yeah, what are we gonna call this workshop? Exactly, a title? Food truck workshop?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should call it a food truck and pop-up
And pop up.
Extravaganza.
extravaganza.
Just kidding.
It may end up being that, yes.
I think that would make more sense to the community than zoning code amendments.
Okay. More.
Car would come and.
So catchphrase.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. Okay, cool. So we got that ironed out. And then what is next on that?
Adriana?
Yeah.
Well, that's about it. I'm not sure if you guys have to vote as far like consensus for it.
It's not an action item, so staff has received the general.
So you don't have to you don't have to have consensus.
No. we're
Sweet.
fine.
Okay,
All right,
then we're
well,
good to
then-
go.
Cool.
That's all
thank
I have to
you.
report. Thank you for participating.
Yeah, no, thank you, for putting all that together. So what,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you,
sorry,
Adriana.
yeah, I'm gonna open this up right now to, public comment. Well, sorry, questions or comments from the public?
Thank you, Cara Bonk, San Juan Bautista. I'm looking at chapter 11-19. And I'll start off with a question. Is mobile food vending different from mobile food truck vending? Because it's kind of mixed up when I looked at this statute, or this, actually it's an ordinance.
That's a great question for Adriana. I know when we talked with the fire marshal today about this and we passed around, we have these flyers talking about safety of food trucks that he's doing in Hollister right now, because they have an ordinance like this. That there's a distinction between a food truck where they're cooking food and they have propane and a stove, and an ice cream truck or a truck that's selling pan dulce. It's not cooked in the truck, it's just off the shelf. And so
I
what's-
see.
they had a two-tier program to address both types.
Okay, that helps. Because I'm looking at the ordinance and I'm looking at page 2 of the packet that was put out here for the public. And so I'm going to D, and it says mobile food truck vendor. And then, but then if you look at E and F, it just talks about mobile food vendor. So I was wondering, are you talking about just the food truck vendors in this E and F? Or, you know, I'm a little bit confused as to whether it also applies to truck. So if it does apply to both, you might want to say mobile food vendor and mobile food truck vendor to make it clear who it applies to. And same with F, it just mentions mobile food vendor. It doesn't use the word truck. So I think it needs to be reviewed for consistency all the way through, since it wasn't clear to me that there were 2 types of mobile food vendors. And so those are the comments I had, since I did look at the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other
Hi,
comments?
this is the city attorney. I just wanted to say that one of the comments that we did have was to better define mobile food trucks. So we will review that more carefully and make the appropriate revisions.
Thank you. Any other comments on the floor? City manager.
No, I have no comments. Adriana, did you have anything you wanted to add? Or Charlie? Charlie's.
Well, I think it's just a good example of how having these meetings and opening this up for discussion can eliminate the ambiguity and help us to know where we need to create more definitions or clarity. So it's part of that process, and that's a perfect example of why it's important. So it's definitely on our list now. It's on our radar.
Awesome, thank you. And then city clerk, any comments on Zoom?
Seeing no hands raised, Chair.
All right, I'm going to be opening up to commissioner comments or questions. Commissioners?
Point of clarification, when we hold or host this workshop, are we going to be discussing the ad hoc results?
Like,
The notes she's referring to specifically.
I would say so. I would like to go over the notes of what
Okay.
people had mentioned, that we had a meeting out at Vertigo, and we met with local vendors that actually had a patio and that could actually do mobile food trucks or pop-ups. So if those owners, since it is a Saturday, cannot attend because they have to run a business, we should share their notes just so that the public is aware, or that their voice is being heard.
Okay, yeah, I would just assume be pretty similar packet to what you have tonight, except we'll update both ordinances.
Sweet, thank you. Commissioner Maderos.
Yeah, is our attorney going to be there at the workshops? Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, if we can do a hybrid for sure. I don't know. I'll let John answer.
It'd be nice to, being it's a community thing, to have the whole gang there.
I will do my best. I'll do my best to be there. You said the 18th, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, I'll put it on the calendar and be there.
Yeah, we're gonna have chicken sandwiches and stuff from
Well,
a food truck.
that'll-
Just kidding.
Thank you.
thank you.
One other question. I know that Commissioner Maderos had said to get the right people there at the workshop. How do we identify that, and what means are we going to be able to publicize or promote that there is going to be a workshop where the town's input and feedback are requested or participation requested?
We would work with the business representatives from downtown. I was at the Monday meeting of the Spirit of San Juan. There were about 25 people there, so that's a good way to reach business owners. And we could even do a utility bill stuffing in the month of April, something like that.
Didn't the ad hoc committee, did you guys do a survey? As far as
Well, we
reaching out?
we didn't do a survey. We just informed all the local businesses that actually had a patio that could do this. We didn't go out to everyone just because, you know, you
Yeah.
couldn't have one. I mean, so I think this is perfect just to have a, you know, general public one, but it was just them, only
Okay.
anyone that had a stake in this.
Right, okay, thank you.
And then I do have some questions for Adriana. I'm not sure if it's in here. I know you mentioned on your presentation, and that's why I'm asking a question, but I saw that you said 2 days or more for those food trucks. Are we planning to change that? I think originally we were looking at something like 3 to 4 days, and the reason behind that was if we had a festival in town, like the Rib Cook-Off, which is a 3-day event, that we could have these food trucks here for 3 days or for over the weekend, you know, especially if there's a holiday, and then be required to leave or come back. Is that something that's on there, or was that just something we're proposing?
So that actually was included in the previous draft that was drafted like prior to November. So staff actually hasn't made any changes to it specifically because it was already discussed in that ad hoc meeting. So we didn't want to make any changes before we had a discussion with the planning commission and did the workshop. That is an item that can be brought up though. Especially during the workshop. And now that you brought it up, we can highlight it as something that we probably want to discuss. Possibly another avenue of like a temporary use permit or something along those lines. Typically, that's what you do is a temporary use permit for a few days or a week or months, however long the commission and the community decide they
Yeah,
want
no,
it.
that's great. Yeah, I'm just concerned also if we encourage food trucks to come from the Bay Area, San Jose or Morgan Hill, and they have to do that drive, is it worth it for them just to be here for a few hours or spend the weekend and see
Right.
what they can do for us? And then also, I saw that you had an incentive bonus. What is that about?
Incentive bonus.
Yeah, I saw that on the presentation you were just putting in.
Oh, let me see. Hold on.
Unless
This is
unless I
Magda.
misread it.
There's Magda. Thanks.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, I
So
appreciate
that
it.
was the draft we had previously from planning. Some of those items, particularly the food truck, we are pulling it from there because we feel that it needs its own ordinance. Like you stated, allowing them to operate for more than 4 days, especially if they're going to go through the whole process of obtaining approval from fire, planning, and so forth. We want to be able to accommodate those needs. So we are pulling some of those items from that, and we will revise it to accommodate the comments, feedback that we are expecting to receive in the workshop from you and from the community. And then we'll bring it back to you with a more finalized draft. But yeah, unfortunately, some of those items we're gonna have to pull from there because they just require different review processes.
Got it. Thank you. And then I have another question. I know we're drafting 2 separate ordinances. Would it just make sense to just have our current ordinance and then just add on to it? Or is it just is it really best to just completely start from scratch and have 2 separate things?
So typically the mobile food truck or addressing mobile food vending or just food vending in general is done on a separate ordinance in itself. So what we're looking at is there was a intent, I believe, to merge the existing 2 sections of 1104. It's like 020 and 030. And that's what you see here. Initially, it was just mixed use, and then you had commercial and industrial as the next subsection. Previous planning department merged the two and revised it. So there are portions of this that were revised just to address specific districts. And so then that's why staff is adding in the additional section or of 1119 for the food vending. So it's just addressing food vending.
Got it. Thank you. And then I think that's pretty much it. I don't think I have anything else other than everything else we can address at the workshop if we have some stuff to say, right?
I was just thinking that, for Adriana, and you have a soft copy of your presentation. I wonder if I can get a copy or we can get a copy of that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
we can forward that to you. We can forward you over a PDF. Is it easier just PDF?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, no problem.
yeah. Thank you.
And then I actually just came up with another question. Going back, I think I had this conversation with staff, primarily Dawn. Once all this is said and done, how easy are we going to make it for our food truck vendors to get their permit online day of? Because some of these guys, they're pop-ups. That's what it is, right? So I'm gonna pop up today in San Juan. And let's just say our office isn't open or our staff is limited or they're busy, is there still plans to make this a very streamlined process and easy to get online and ready to just go? Because that was one of our primary concerns, was that the city was making it very difficult for vendors or pop-up retail to happen. And so I want to make sure we don't lose sight of that.
So that's where the provision in the notes, for example, Ada and I were talking about a letter from the property owner, and the property owner didn't want to send a letter. But it seems like you should have the property owner's approval if you're
already there, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's not just the city, but just thinking of being a tenant versus property owner versus a subtenant, right? It's almost like a sublet. When I thought of this earlier, and Adriana and Magda, feel free to pitch in, the whole land use question, confirming that the property is actually in the commercial district or mixed use district, and how do you find out? And I don't know if AI has gotten to a point yet where you can pull up your property and it can tell you everything you can do on it. That would be great. We're getting there, but we're not there yet. But that's the first question that, for example, Mayor Friels asked me about the pizza vendor on Monterama's property is, what's the zoning? Is it commercial or mixed use? Yes, it is. So, I mean, we'll do our best and we'll put our heads together. Any thoughts, Adriana?
I think that the application itself can be a very good tool. The form itself could have a section where it's just the address is already on there. The property owner is listed. So you write in the property owner and they sign it, consenting to whatever the application is. And that skips that step of them having to actually write out a letter, but it shows us that they gave consent to do approvals for their property. So that's the other part, is that giving approvals for somebody else's land is, you want to be careful when we're doing that to make sure that the owner is actually consenting to it. This is just to protect the homeowners or the business owners or property owners. But I think that streamlining the form may be easy to do. So once we figure out, okay, they're a mixed use, and then we have if they're in this zoning, then they have to comply with these items. And it could be something that's done over the counter and possibly submitted online. I'm not sure it'll be an instantaneous approval, because we do want to review it for completeness and to make sure that they're not doing anything they're not supposed to in the wrong district. I don't know if that's helpful. Yeah.
And I'm assuming this permit would be good for a year, correct? Or something like that. That's what we're looking at.
Annual permit?
An annual permit.
That's part of the discussion is, as you brought up earlier, like the 2 or 3 days, do we want to look at 1 week? Is that one particular permit for a week, a month? Once it hits 2 months, are we looking at more of a long-term permit? So that's part of that process.
Got it. And if we were looking at how to enforce all this, I'm assuming we would have our code enforcement or someone review all this, or they would show up with their health department permit, or how would all that work?
So the enforcement portion of the ordinance is something that we work with the attorneys and code enforcement so that they do have the ability to enforce it, and we'll have that outlined in the ordinance.
It talks about having the health permit and other things visible at all times so that the enforcement is easy. And you'll see that our public safety coordinator, Roy Morales, is listening in today, and he also provided feedback already on the ordinance. So we're coordinating that.
Perfect. Yeah, I just want to make sure we don't run into the same problem that we had before where we felt like a lot of our vendors were being picked on by code enforcement and it just turned into a fiasco. So obviously I do want to make sure everyone's up to par with their paperwork, but that we're not singling out certain people and it's just causing even more problems.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that if whoever in staff is gonna be doing that, they should be at the workshop as well, at least invited.
Okay.
One of the things too is with regards to liability, I didn't see, and I may have missed it. Insurance, is that gonna be covered somewhere, Adriana, where it protects the city or, as far as liability and even the business owners? Is there going to be some kind of requirement for a particular insurance to cover them and us?
That's more of an attorney question. Typically, we do have a indemnification agreement that they sign at the bottom of their application, which is vetted by the attorneys. And then as far as insurance requirements, I would defer that to the attorneys.
I think that would be something that would be really important.
And we will make sure that that is part of the agreement or ordinance, sorry.
Thank you.
Other than that, I don't have any other questions. Commissioners, questions, comments?
So far, so good. Thank you.
All right, well, then we look forward to the workshop on May 18th. Let me see, sorry, I'm a little lost here. Okay, cool. No, there's no action needed. So I guess I will move to an adjournment. So the next regular planning commission meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. It is 7:05 PM and this meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adjournment. Usually we vote on adjournment. It's not.